we can take the vital substances of Chinese medicine, and they do have Western correlates, but we can bridge that gap. We can speak of Jing as the functional aspects that govern. We don't see it as DNA. We don't see DNA is Jing, because remember, we're process oriented. It's like, what does it do? It's the functional aspect of epigenetics with genetics, telomere function, that describes how this vitality, how this Jing Shen that we spoke about in the beginning comes into emergence, into growth, and how it defines the process of aging. And this vital essence, or Jing Shen, when it is not being held as this view of life as matter. If the view of life is matter, then DNA wins. If the view of life is that there's something that calls us to a higher level of being, then we can use that Jing to redeem more spirit from matter. Blood defines really our cellular nutritional status. This is very abbreviated. I wrote a chapter in the book that I'm doing right now, and the nature of blood was about 10 pages. So, but Yingji wants to be immersed in blood, and blood includes the Shen. It's not just this red stuff. It's a flowing dynamic that carries so much within it. Whereas in the Western view, blood is blood, get a transfusion, look at its components, and that's not at all what we want to do. We want to include the components. We want to be able to look at it with the Western eyes. We want to be able to look at it with the Eastern eyes, and then we want to feel the power of the blood that flows through us. Jinya we can define as endocrine, glandular, and exocrine functions. That have all kinds of background behind that one. And then Qi can be defined as metabolic activity, ATP, storage of energy in the cells, the transfer of ions, the charges in the gaps that through which the neuron causes a muscular contraction. And Shen can be kind of translated to, although this is really a mistranslation where Shen is mind, but Shen can be seen as that which comes through this thing we call mind, which has a qualitative vitality along with it. And it does include personal psychology, not personal psychology simply as something to fix or mend or heal, but to allow it to be the conduit of alchemy, where some of our erroneous emotional stances of life can be overcome so that something higher can come through. All right, the scientific approach here, that's, modern Western science and the scientific approach, which is a good thing. We can't find the details and until we really dive into the smallest particles. But the scientific approach is based on knowing something, having knowledge, to cleave it, to divide it, to make it separate from other things. So it's based on the ability to divide, separate. And, if we think of the higher view of this, we've got so much of that. We've got too much division and separation in life that, this function of the left brain, that it undoubtedly has been on the throne for thousands of years. it has been the view of life, where the mystery has been bled out of life in preference for control.